Hi there, welcome back, or welcome for the very first time. You're safe now. This is your time to rest. Let go of your day. Let your breath slow down and your thoughts float gently away. Tonight I'll be reading you a fairy tale, an old story wrapped in moonlight and carried on a quiet breeze just for you. So snuggle in, get cozy, and let the soft rhythm of the story guide you into dreams. Let's begin. The Dream of Rhonabwy. Madawg, the son of Meredith, possessed powers within its boundaries, from Porfoed to Guanian, in the uplands of Arisli. And at the time he had a brother, Iorwerth, the son of Meredith, in rank not equal to himself. And Iorwerth had great sorrow and heaviness because of the honour and power that his brother enjoyed, which he shared not. And he sought his fellows and his foster brothers, and took counsel with them what he should do in this matter. And they resolved to dispatch some of their number to go and seek a maintenance for him. Then Madawg offered him to become master of the household, and to have horses and arms and honour, and to fare like himself. But Iorwerth refused this. And Iorwerth made an inroad into Lochria, slaying the inhabitants and burning houses and carrying away prisoners. And Madawg took counsel with the men of Powys, and they determined to place 100 men in each of the 3 commots of Powys to seek for him. And thus did they in the plains of Powys, from Aber Ceraug, and in Alectunver, and in Chryd Wylio, on the Vernwy, the 3 best commots of Powys. So he was none the better, he nor his household, in Powys, nor in the plains thereof. And they spread these men over the plains as far as Nichistun Trevan. Now one of the men who was upon this quest was called Rhonabwy, and Rhonabwy and Cynrig Virgoch, a man of Mouthwy, and Cadogan Vras, a man of Moelvre in Cynlleth, came together to the house of Haelin Goch, the son of Cadogan and the son of Ithon. And when they came near to the house, they saw an old hall, very black, and having an upright gable, whence issued a great smoke. And on entering, they found the floor full of puddles and mounds, and it was difficult to stand thereon, so slippery was it with the mire of cattle, and where the puddles were, a man might go up to his ankles in water and dirt. And there were boughs of holly spread over the floor, whereof the cattle had browsed the sprigs. When they came to the hall of the house, they beheld cells full of dust and very gloomy, and on one side an old hag was making a fire. Whenever she felt cold, she cast a lapful of chaff onto the fire, and raised such a smoke that it was scarcely to be borne, as it rose up the nostrils. And on the other side was a yellow calf skin on the floor. A main privilege was it to anyone who should get upon that hide. And when they had sat down, they asked the hag where were the people of the house. But the hag spoke not, instead muttering. Thereupon, behold, the people of the house entered, a ruddy, clownish, curly-headed man with a burthen of sticks on his back, and a pale, slender woman who also carried a bundle under her arm, and they barely welcomed the men and kindled a fire with the boughs. The woman cooked something and gave them to eat, barley bread and cheese and milk and water. And there arose a storm of wind and rain, so it was hardly possible to go forth with safety. And being weary with their journey, they laid themselves down and sought to sleep. And when they looked at the couch, it seemed to be made of little but coarse straw, full of dust and vermin, and with the stems of boughs sticking up therethrough, for the cattle had eaten all the straw that was placed at the head and the foot. Upon it was stretched an old russet-coloured rug, threadbare and ragged, and a coarse sheet full of slits was upon the rug, and with it an ill-stuffed pillow and a worn-out cover upon the sheet. And after much suffering from the vermin and from the discomforts of their couch, a heavy sleep fell on Rhonabwy's companions. But Rhonabwy, not being able either to sleep or to rest, thought he should suffer less if he went to lie upon the yellow calf skin that was stretched out upon the floor, and there he slept. As soon as sleep had come upon his eyes, it seemed to him that he was journeying with his companions across the plain of Argengroig, and he thought that he went towards Rhyd y Gros on the Severn. As he journeyed, he heard a mighty noise, the like whereof he had never heard before, and looking behind him, he beheld a youth with yellow curling hair, and with his beard newly trimmed, mounted on a chestnut horse, whereof the legs were grey from the top of the forelegs and from the bend of the hind legs downward, and the rider wore a coat of yellow satin sewn with green silk, and on his thigh was a gold-hilted sword with a scabbard of new leather of Cordova, belted with the skin of the deer and clasped with gold, and over this was a scarf of yellow satin wrought with green silk, and the borders whereof were likewise green, and the green of the caparison of the horse and his rider was as green as the leaves of the fir tree, and the yellow was as yellow as the blossoms of the broom. So fierce was the aspect of the night that fear seized upon them, and they began to flee, and the knight pursued them, and when the horse breathed forth, the men became distant from him, and when he drew in his breath, they were drawn nearer to him, even to the horse's chest. And when he had overtaken them, they besought his mercy. "You have it gladly," said he, "fear not." "Ha, chieftain, since thou hast mercy upon me, tell me who thou art," said Rhonabwy. "I will not conceal my lineage from thee. I am Iddawc, the son of Minio, and yet not my name, but by my nickname am I best known." "And wilt thou tell us what thy nickname is?" "I will tell you. It is Iddawc Corth Brydain." "Ha, chieftain," said Rhonabwy, "why art thou called thus?" "I will tell thee. I was one of the messengers between Arthur and Medrawd his nephew at the battle of Camlan, and I was then a reckless youth, and through my desire for battle I kindled strife between them and stirred up wrath, and when I was sent by Arthur the Emperor to reason with Medrawd and show him that he was his foster father and his uncle, and to seek for peace, lest the son of the kings of the island of Britain and the nobles should be slain. Whereas Arthur charged me with the fairest sayings he could think of, I uttered unto Medrawd the harshest I could devise, and therefore I am called Idaug, quoth Prydain, and from this did the battle of Camlan ensue. And 3 nights before the end of the battle of Camlan, I left them and went to Lleclas in North Britain to do penance, and there I remained doing penance 7 years, and after that I gained pardon. Then lo, they heard a mighty sound, which was much louder than that which they had heard before, and when they looked round towards the sound, they beheld a ruddy youth, without beard or whiskers, noble of mien, and mounted on a stately courser, and from the shoulders and front of the knees downward the horse was a bay, and upon the man was a dress of red satin wrought with yellow silk, and yellow were the borders of his scarf, and the such parts of his apparel and trappings of his horse as were yellow as the blossoms of the broom, and such were red as ruddy as the ruddiest blood in the world. And then, behold, the horseman overtook them, and he asked of Iddawc a share of the little men that were with him. That which is fitting for me to grant I will grant, and thou shalt be a companion to them, as I have been. And the horseman went away. Iddawc inquired Rhonabwy, who was that horseman? Rhivawn Pebble, the son of Prince Diorthach. And they journeyed over the plain of Argingroig as far as the ford of Rheda grows on the Severn, and for a mile around the ford, on both sides of the road, they saw tents and encampments, and there was a clamour of a mighty host. And they came to the edge of the ford, and there they beheld Arthur sitting on a flat island below the ford, having Bedwini the bishop on one side of him, and Gwarthegid the son of Cow on the other, and a tall auburn-haired youth stood before him, and his sheathed sword in his hand, and clad in a coat and a cap of jet black satin, and his face was white as ivory, and his eyebrows black as jet, and such part of his wrist as could be seen between his glove and his sleeve was whiter than the lily, and thicker than a warrior's ankle. Then came Iddawc and they that were with him, and stood before Arthur, and saluted him. Heaven grant thee good, said Arthur, and where, Iddawc, did you find these little men? I found them, Lord, up yonder on the road. And then the emperor smiled. Lord, said Iddawc, wherefore dost thou laugh? Iddawc, replied Arthur, I laugh not, but it pitieth me that men of such stature as these should have this island in their keeping after the men that guarded it of yore. Then said Iddawc, Rhonabwy, dost thou see the ring with a stone set in it, that is upon the emperor's hand? I see it, he answered. It is one of the properties of that stone to enable thee to remember that thou seest here tonight, and hadst thou not seen the stone, thou wouldst never have been able to remember aught thereof. After this, they saw a troop coming towards the ford. Iddawc, inquired Rhonabwy, to whom does yonder troop belong? They are the fellows of Rhivawn Pebble, the son of Prince Diorthach, and these men are honourably served with the mead and the bragget, and they are freely beloved by the daughters of the kings of the island of Britain. And this they merit, for they were ever in the front and ever in the rear of every peril. and he saw but one hue upon the men and the horses of this troop, for they were all as red as blood. And when one of the knights rode forth from the troop, he looked like a pillar of fire glancing athwart the sky, and this troop encamped above the ford. Then they beheld another troop coming across the ford, and these from the horses' chests upward were whiter than the lily, and below blacker than jet. And they saw one of these knights go before the rest, and spur his horse into the ford in such a manner that the water dashed over Arthur and the bishop, and those holding counsel with them, so that they were as wet as if they had been drenched in the river. And as he turned the head of his horse, the youth who stood before Arthur struck the horse over the nostrils with his sheathed sword. That it had been with the bare blade, it would have been a marvel if the bone had not been wounded as well as the flesh. And the knight drew his sword half out of the scabbard, and asked of him, Wherefore did thou strike my horse? Whether was it in insult or in counsel unto me? Thou dost indeed lack counsel. What madness caused thee to ride so furiously as to dash the water of the ford over Arthur and the consecrated bishop and their counsellors, so that they were as wet as if they had been dragged out of the river? As counsel, then, I will take it. So he turned his horse's head round towards his army. Ither-ook, said Rhonabwy, who was yonder knight? The most eloquent and wisest youth in this island, a Daon, the son of Taliesin. Who was the man that struck his horse? A youth of froward nature, Elphin, the son of Gwyddno. Then spake a tall and stately man of noble and flowing speech, saying that it was a marvel that so vast a host should be assembled in so narrow a space, and that it was still greater marvel that those should be here at the time who had promised to be, by midday, in the battle of Baden, fighting with Osla Kishlersvaur. Whether thou mayest choose to proceed or not, I will proceed. Thou sayest well, said Arthur, and we will go together. Ither-ook, said Rhonabwy, who was the man who spoke so marvellously unto Arthur erewhile? A man who may speak as boldly as he listeth. Caradoc Vraichvas, the son of Shlir Machini, his chief counsellor and his cousin. Then Ither-ook took Rhonabwy behind him on his horse, and that mighty host moved forward, each troop in its order, towards Cefndigoch. And when they came to the middle of the ford of the Severn, Ither-ook turned his horse's head, and Rhonabwy looked along the valley of the Severn, and he beheld two fair troops coming toward the ford. One troop there came of brilliant white, and every one of the men had a scarf of white satin with jet black borders, and the knees and the tops of the shoulders of their horses were jet black, though they were of a pure white in every other part, and their banners were pure white, with black points to them all. Ither-ook, said Rhonabwy, who are the jet black troop yonder? They are the men of Denmark, and Eder-ern, the son of Neath, is their prince. And when they had overtaken the host, Arthur and his army of mighty ones dismounted below Caer Badu, and he perceived that he and Ither-ook journeyed the same road as Arthur. And after they had dismounted, he heard a great tumult and confusion amongst the host, and such were then at the flanks turned towards the centre, and such had been in the centre moved to the flanks. And then, behold, he saw a knight coming, clad both he and his horse in mail, of which the rings were whiter than the whitest lily, and the rivets redder than the ruddiest blood. And he rode among the host. Hither, Uke, said Rhonabwy, will yonder host flee? King Arthur never fled, and if this discourse of thine were heard, thou wert a lost man. But as to the knight whom thou seest yonder, it is Kai. The fairest horseman is Kai in all Arthur's court. And the men who were at the front of the army hasten to the rear to see Kai ride, and the men who were at the centre flee to the side from the shock of his horse. And this is the cause of the confusion of the host. Thereupon they heard a call made for Cadur, Earl of Cornwall, and behold, he arose with the sword of Arthur in his hand, and the similitude of two serpents was upon the sword in gold. And when the sword was drawn from its scabbard, it seemed as if two flames of fire burst forth from the jaws of the serpents. And then so wonderful was the sword that it was hard for anyone to look upon it. And the host became still, and the tumult ceased, and the earl returned to the tent. Hither, Uke, said Rhonabwy, who is the man who bore the sword of Arthur? Cadur, the Earl of Cornwall, whose duty it is to arm the king on the days of battle and warfare. And they heard a call made for Eirenuch Amhibin, Arthur's servant, a red, rough, ill-favoured man, having red whiskers with bristly hairs. And behold, he came upon a tall horse, with the mane parted on each side, and he brought with him a large and beautiful sumpter pack. And the huge red youth dismounted before Arthur, and he drew a golden chair out of the pack, and a carpet of diapered satin. And he spread the carpet before Arthur, and there was an apple of ruddy gold at each corner thereof, and he placed the chair upon the carpet. And so large was the chair that 3 armed warriors might have sat therein. Gwen was the name of the carpet, and it was one of the properties that whoever was upon it, no one could see him, but he could see everyone, and it would retain no colour but its own. And Arthur sat within the carpet, and Owain, the son of Urien, was standing before him. Owain, said Arthur, wilt thou play chess? I will, lord, said Owain, and the red youth brought the chess for Arthur and Owain, golden pieces and a board of silver, and they began to play. And while they were thus, and when they were amused with their game, behold, they saw a white tent with a red canopy, and a figure of a jet-black serpent on the top of the tent, and red, glaring, venomous eyes in the head of the serpent, and a red flaming tongue. And there came a young page with yellow curling hair and blue eyes, and a new springing beard, wearing a coat and a surcoat of yellow satin, and hose of thin greenish-yellow cloth upon his feet, and over this hose shoes of party-coloured leather fastened at the insteps with golden clasps. And he bore a heavy 3-edged sword with a golden hilt in a scabbard of black leather tipped with fine gold, and he came to the place where the Emperor and Owain were playing chess. And the youth saluted Owain, and Owain marvelled that the youth should salute him and not have saluted the Emperor Arthur. And Arthur knew that it was Owain's thought, and he said to Owain, Marvel not that the youth salutes thee now, for he saluted me erewhile, and it is unto thee that his errand is. Then said the youth unto Owain, Lord, is it with thy leave that the young pages and attendants of the emperor harass and torment and worry thy ravens? And if it be not with thy leave, cause the emperor to forbid them. Lord, said Owain, thou hearest what the youth says. If it seems good to thee, forbid them from my ravens. Play thy game, said he, and then the youth returned to the tent. The game did they finish, and another they began, and when they were in the midst of the game, behold, a ruddy young man with auburn curling hair and large eyes, well grown, and having his beard newly shorn, came forth from a bright yellow tent upon the summit, of which was the figure of a bright red lion, and he was clad in a coat of yellow satin, falling as low as the small of his leg, and embroidered with threads of red silk. And on his feet were hose of fine white buckram, and buskins of black leather were over his hose, and whereupon were golden clasps, and in his hand a huge, heavy, three-edged sword with a scabbard of red deer hide, tipped with gold. And he came to the place where Arthur and Owain were playing at chess, and then he saluted him, and Owain troubled at his salutation, but Arthur minded it no more than before. And the youth said unto Owain, Is it not against thy will that the attendants of the emperor harass thy ravens, killing some and worrying others? If it is against thy will, be it beseech him to forbid them. Lord, said Owain, forbid thy men if it seem good to thee. Play thy game, said the emperor, and the youth returned to the tent. And that game ended, and another began. And as they were beginning the first move of the game, they beheld a small distance from them a tent speckled yellow, the largest ever seen, with the figure of an eagle of gold upon it, and a precious stone on the eagle's head. And coming out of the tent, they saw a youth with thick yellow hair upon his head, fair and comely, and a scarf of blue satin upon him, and a brooch of gold in the scarf upon his right shoulder, as large as a warrior's middle finger, and upon his feet were the hose of fine tautness, and shoes of party-coloured leather, clasped with gold. And the youth was of noble bearing, fair of face, with ruddy cheeks and large hawk's eyes, and in the hand of the youth was a mighty lance, speckled yellow, with newly sharpened head, and upon the lance a banner displayed. Fiercely angry, and with rapid pace, came the youth to the place where Arthur was playing at chess with Owain, and they perceived that he was wroth. And thereupon he saluted Owain, and told him that his ravens had been killed, the chief part of them, and that such of them were not slain was so wounded and bruised that not one of them could raise its wings a single fathom above the earth. Lord, said Owain, forbid thy men. Play, said he, if it pleases thee. Then said Owain to the youth, Go back, and wherever thou findest the strife at the thickest, there lift up the banner, and let come what pleases heaven. So the youth returned back to the place where the strife bore hardest upon the ravens, and he lifted up the banner, and as he did so, they all rose up into the air, wrathful and fierce, and high of spirit, clapping their wings in the wind, and shaking off the weariness that was upon them, and recovering their energy and courage, furiously, and with exultation did they, with one sweep, descend upon the heads of the men who had erewhile caused them anger, and pain, and damage, and they seized some by the heads, others by the eyes, and some by the ears, and some by the arms, and carried them up into the air, and in the air there was a mighty tumult, with the flapping of the wings of the triumphant ravens, and with their croaking, and there was another mighty tumult with the groaning of the men, that were being torn and wounded, and some of who were slain. And Arthur and Owain marvelled at the tumult as they played at chess, and looking they perceived a knight upon a dun-coloured horse coming towards them, and marvellous was the hue of the dun horse. Bright red was his right shoulder, and from the top of his legs to the centre of his hoof was bright yellow. Both the knight and his horse were fully equipped with heavy foreign armour. The clothing of the horse, from the front opening upwards, was a bright red sendal, and from thence opening downwards was a bright yellow sendal. A large, gold-hilted, one-edged sword had the youth upon his thigh in a scabbard of light blue and tipped with Spanish Latin. The belt of the sword was of dark green leather with golden slides and the clasp of ivory upon it, and a buckle of jet black was upon the clasp. A helmet of gold was on the head of the knight, set with precious stones of great virtue, and at the top of the helmet was the image of a flame-coloured leopard with 2 ruby eyes set into its head, so it was astounding for a warrior, however stout his heart, to look at the face of the leopard, much more at the face of the knight. He had in his hand a blue shafted lance, but from the haft of the point to it was stained crimson red with the blood of the ravens and their plumage. The knight came to the place where Arthur and Owain were seated at chess, and they perceived that he was harassed and vexed and weary as he came towards them. The youth saluted Arthur and told him that the ravens of Owain were slaying his young men and attendants. And Arthur looked at Owain and said, "Forbid thy ravens." "Lord," answered Owain, "play thy game." And they played, and the knight returned back towards the strife, and the ravens were not forbidden any more than before. And when they had played a while, they heard a mighty tumult, and a wailing of men, and a croaking of ravens. And as they carried the men in their strength into the air, and tearing them betwixt them, let them fall piecemeal to the earth. And during the tumult they saw a knight coming towards them on a light grey horse, and the left foreleg of the horse was jet black to the centre of his hoof, and the knight and the horse were fully accoutred with a huge, heavy blue armour, and a robe of honour of yellow diapered satin was upon the knight, and the borders of the robe were blue, and the housings of the horse were jet black with borders of bright yellow, and on the thigh of the youth was a sword, long and 3-edged and heavy, and the scabbard was of red-cut leather, and a belt of new red deerskin, having upon it many golden slides, and a buckle of the bone and seahorse, and the tongue of which was jet black. A golden helmet was upon the head of the knight, wherein were set sapphire stones of great virtue, and at the top of the helmet was the crimson of a flame-coloured lion, with a fiery red tongue issuing a foot above from his mouth, and with his venomous eyes crimson red in his head. And the knight came, bearing in his hand a thick ashen lance, the head whereof, which had been newly steeped in blood, was overlaid with silver. And the youth saluted the emperor. "Lord," said he, "carest thou not for the slaying of thy pages and thy young men, and the sons of the nobles of the island of Britain, whereby it will be difficult to defend this island from henceforward for ever?" "Owain," said Arthur, "forbid thy ravens." "Play this game, Lord," said Owain. So they finished the game and began another. And as they were finishing that game, lo, they heard a great tumult, and a clamour of armed men, and a croaking of ravens, and a flapping of wings in the air, as they flung down the armour entire to the ground, and the men and the horses piecemeal. Then they saw coming a knight on a lofty-headed piebald horse, and the left shoulder of the horse was of bright red, and its right leg, from the chest to the hollow of the hoof, was pure white, and the knight and the horse were equipped with arms of speckled yellow, variegated with Spanish lace, and there was a robe of honour upon him and upon his horse, divided in two parts, white and black, and the borders of the robe of the honour were of gold and purple, and above the robe he wore a sword, three-edged and bright, with a golden hilt, and the belt of the sword was of a yellow gold work, having a clasp upon it of the eyelid of a black seahorse, and a tongue of a yellow gold to the clasp. Upon the head of the knight was a bright helmet of yellow laton, with sparkling stones of crystal in it, and at the crest of the helmet was the figure of a griffin, with a stone of many virtues in its head, and he had an ashen spear in his hand, with a round shaft, coloured with azure blue, and the head of the spear was newly stained with blood, and overlaid with fine silver. Wrathfully came the knight to the place where Arthur was, and told him the ravens had slain his household and the sons of the chief men on the island, and he besought him to cause Owain to forbid his ravens. And Arthur besought Owain to forbid them. Then Arthur took the golden chessmen that were upon the board and crushed them until they became as dust. Then Owain ordered Gurus, the son of Haged, to lower his banner. So it was lowered, and all was peace. Then Rhonabwy inquired of Iddawc, who were the first three men that came to Owain to tell him whose ravens were being slain. Said Iddawc, they were the men who grieved that Owain should suffer loss, his fellow chieftains and companions, Selif the son of Cunning, Gawain of Powys, and Gugaun of Glethyfrith, and Gurus the son of Rhaged, who bears the banner in the day of battle and strife. And who, said Rhonabwy, were the last three men who came to Arthur and told him that the ravens were slaughtering his men? The best of men, said Iddawc, and the bravest, who would grieve exceedingly that Arthur should have damage in aught. Blathaon, the son of Nawreth, and Rivaun Pebe, the son of Prince Diothach, and Havaeth in Llym. And with that, behold, 24 knights from Osla Gichafawr to crave a truce of Arthur for a fortnight and a month. And Arthur rose and went to take counsel, and when he came to where a tall, auburn, curly-headed man was a little way off, there he assembled his counsellors, Bedwini the bishop, and Gwathged the son of Cow, and Mach the son of Meachaun, and Caradog Vrechfras, and Gwachmai the son of Gwar, and Ederin the son of Neith, and Rivaun Pebe the son of Prince Diothach, and Rhiogan the son of the king of Ireland, and Gwynwynwyn the son of Nav, and Howell the son of Emir Llydau, and Gwilym the son of Chwyf Frank, and Daned the son of Ath, and Goru Custanin, and Mammon the son of Modron, and Peredur Paladir, and Havaeth and Llyn, and Tuch the son of Perif, and Neath the son of Cadan, and Gobrui the son of Echel, for Thuchitwich, Gwer the son of Gwestel, and Gadwy the son of Geraint, Tristan the son of Taluch, Morian Manauk, Granwen the son of Schleer, and Schlachau the son of Arthur, and Schlauvrodeth Vavauch, and Cadur the son of Cornwall, Morvan the son of Tegid, and Riaud the son of Morgant, and Daver the son of Alin Deved, and Gurhir Gwalstod Yethoith, Adion the son of Telisin, Rhagi, the son of Casna Wledig, flew their flam, and Greidaw gach Dovid, Gilbert, the son of Cadgifro, Menw, the son of Tiagwaith, Gwrth Mwyl Wledig, Cawodraf, the son of Caradaug Vrifes, Gildas, the son of Caw, Caderiaeth, the son of Sadie, and many of the men of Norway and Denmark, and many of the men of Greece, and a crowd of the men of the host came to that council. Iddawg, said Rhonabwy, who was the auburn-haired man to whom they all came just now? Chain, the son of Maelgwn Gwynedd, a man whose prerogative it is that he may join in council with all. And wherefore did they admit into the council with men of such dignity as are yonder a stripling, so young as Caderiaeth, the son of Sadie? Because there is not throughout Britain a man better skilled in counsel than he. Thereupon, behold, bards came and recited verses before Arthur, and no man understood those verses but Caderiaeth, only save that they were in Arthur's praise. And lo, there came 24 donkeys with their burdens of gold and silver, and a tired, wayworn man with each of them, bringing tribute to Arthur from the islands of Greece. Then Caderiaeth, the son of Sadie, besought that a truce might be granted to Usla Gichechvawr for the space of a fortnight and a month, and that the donkeys and the burdens they carried might be given to the bards, to be to them as a reward for their stay, and that their verse might be recompensed during the time of the truce. Thus it was settled. Rhonabwy, said Iddawg, would it not be wrong to forbid a youth who can give counsel so liberal as this from coming to the councils of the Lord? Then Kai arose, and he said, whosoever will follow Arthur, let him be with him tonight in Cornwall, and whosoever will not, let him be opposed to Arthur even during the truce. And through the greatness of the tumult that ensued, Rhonabwy awoke, and when he awoke, he was upon the yellow calf skin, having slept 3 nights and 3 days. And this tale is called the Dream of Rhonabwy, and this is the reason that no one knows the dream without a book, neither bard nor gifted seer, because of the various colours that were upon the horses, and the many wondrous colours of the arms of the panoply, and all of the precious scarfs, and of the virtue-bearing stones. The end. The story has ended, but your dreams are just beginning. Let them carry you gently through stars and silence and soft wonder. Thank you for letting me read to you. I'll be here again whenever you need a quiet voice and a gentle tale. Sleep well, sleep deep, and good night, dear dreamer. Breuddwydion melys, dear dreamer, sweet dreams.